Hello, I'm career educator Stephen Miedema from the Office of Career Development. Today, I'm going to talk about personal branding, and then I'm going to talk about resumes and how you can use your personal brand to sell yourself in a resume. Let's start this process by building your personal brand. To start, what is a personal brand? Linda Evans, a career coach and expert in the field of personal branding, describes it this way. She says, it's a concise, compelling way of communicating who you are and what you have to offer your target audience. Or as I like to think of it, the idea of you. When we're applying for jobs or applying to grad school, we're trying to sell ourselves. But we can't sell ourselves in entirety because human beings are very deep and complex. It takes a while to get to know us. An employer might not be able to get to know you completely for years while you work with them. So instead, we have to be able to sell this idea of us so they feel like they know who we are and can trust that we'll be a good fit in their company or in their graduate program. This is where personal branding really comes into play. Again, building your brand, we want to start with reflecting on who you are. To start this awareness, let's take a look at some self-inventories. A couple of them include the Focus to Career, Clifton Strengths, and Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. You've probably heard of a couple of these. If you haven't, check them out. One I would especially suggest is the Focus to Career, because this is SDSU's online career exploration tool. It is available to you completely free and online on the SDSU Office of Career Development webpage. Check this one out. Even if you have committed to a major and know what you want to go into for a career, the best part about Focus 2 is it takes who you are as a person and looks at your personality and then relates that to your future. This is what we do with personal branding. So now let's identify your brand. To start, we want to break down into 5 different areas of what makes up who you are. First is those traits. These are those descriptors. This is who are you? If a friend had to describe you in one word, what would that be? Next is passions. This is what do you like to do? What gets you excited? What do you want to do to get energized every day? Next is strengths. This is how do you shine? What do you bring to the table? Then we have values. This is what is important to you. Values are those deep, integral parts of who we are that identify what's worth it for us. What do we want to get out of our career? Or what aren't we going to sacrifice because of our career? And then finally, the 5th part is goals. This is where you are going. We think of those first 4, those traits, those passions, those strengths, those values as who you are. Then that goals, that's where you're going with your brand. All of this is important. So let's start with some reflection. I want everybody to write down 3 traits right now. On this list, you can take a look. We have a bunch of examples of traits. Otherwise, go ahead and just pause the video and brainstorm what makes up you. What if a friend had to describe you in one word, what would they say? Once we've identified those traits, let's move on to your passions. Passions can be a little cheesy sounding. So instead, I like to think of it as something that is very cheesy sounding. What do you geek out on? The number one conversation I have with students when we are exploring careers is about what they've done in the past and what they get excited about. I want to hear them geek out, whether that's going to be on sports, art, music, or if it's going to be on something like math or not math. Whatever it is that you geek out on, what you're passionate about, those activities, and more specifically, what it is about those activities is something to hone in on. If you find a career that you can express your passions every day, you're going to come home from work more energized than when you show up at work. Write down 3 passions right now. Once you've written down those 3 passions, we'll move on to strengths. Next is your strengths, or how do you shine? If you've taken the Clifton Strengths Assessment before, we know that it's easier to put the energy into what we like to do versus what's difficult for us. And so by owning up and taking advantage of our strengths, we can really let ourselves shine in the work environment. Employers are also looking for your strengths. This might be one of the most important things they're looking for, because this is what you're going to bring in those active situations when you're completing a task with your coworkers. Pause the video and write down 3 strengths right now, either from this list or from something else that you know. Now that we have our strengths down, we'll move on to values. Values, this is what's worth it for you in your career. What do you want to get out of your work? It could be money. Paycheck's nice. Living in a nice place is awesome. Or it could be people. Maybe for you, the money isn't worth it. Instead, you want to have that valuable conversation with somebody every day. Maybe you want to make an impact. Maybe the money is worth it, but where that money comes from is important. Maybe you want to get that money from working in a career that helps people rather than a career that takes advantage of people. Pause the video and write down 3 values for you. Once we have those values written down, we'll move on to goals. We're going to see where you're going to go with this. To start, I want everybody to write down 3 goals that they have. These could be goals that you have for this semester. These could be goals that you have for this next year, or these could be goals that you have for your career. Everybody, pause the video and write down 3 goals.